Imagine waking up tomorrow to find your GPS dead, your internet down, and your credit cards useless, all because of a microscopic piece of floating trash. This is not science fiction. This is a scenario that scientists are actively warning us about right now, and the window to prevent it may be closing faster than most people realize. Space debris is one of those problems that sounds distant and technical until you start understanding what actually depends on the satellites orbiting our planet. And then it becomes one of the most urgent issues of our time. So today, we are going to break down exactly what space debris is, how bad the situation already is, what happens if we do absolutely nothing, and whether there is still time to fix this. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to see outer space in a completely different way. Let us start with the basics. Space debris, sometimes called orbital debris or space junk, refers to any human-made object in orbit around Earth that no longer serves a useful function. This includes dead satellites, spent rocket stages, fragments from explosions and collisions, even tiny flecks of paint and bolts that have drifted away from spacecraft over the decades. Right now, according to tracking data, there are approximately 27,000 pieces of debris large enough to be tracked by ground-based systems. But here is the part that should really get your attention. There are estimated to be hundreds of millions of smaller pieces that we cannot track at all. And in the vacuum of space, even a 1 centimeter fragment traveling at orbital velocities carries enough kinetic energy to completely disable a functioning satellite. To put that in perspective, a tiny piece of debris in low Earth orbit moves roughly 10 times faster than a bullet. When something that fast hits another object, the result is not a clean hole. It is an explosion of secondary fragments, each one now its own debris hazard. But losing your GPS is just the beginning. What scientists are actually terrified of is a chain reaction so violent it could literally trap us on Earth for generations. Back in 1978, a NASA scientist named Donald Kessler proposed a theoretical scenario. He suggested that if the density of objects in low Earth orbit ever reached a critical threshold, a single collision could trigger a chain reaction. Each collision creates more debris. More debris means higher collision probability. Higher collision probability leads to more collisions. The cycle accelerates until the entire orbital band is essentially unusable. This became known as the Kessler Syndrome, and what was once a theoretical worst case is now something space agencies around the world treat as a realistic threat. By the way, if you are fascinated by the hidden dangers of space and want to understand the forces shaping our future, take a quick second to hit subscribe so you do not miss our next deep dive. We have already seen smaller previews of this danger. In 2009, an active American communications satellite called Iridium 33 collided with a defunct Russian satellite called Cosmos 2251. The impact generated thousands of new debris fragments that are still spreading through orbit today, more than 15 years later. In 2007, China conducted an anti-satellite missile test, deliberately destroying one of its own weather satellites. That single event created over 3,000 trackable debris fragments and significantly worsened the overall debris environment in one afternoon. And the problem is accelerating. The commercial space industry has launched thousands of new satellites in just the past few years. Companies like SpaceX have already deployed hundreds of Starlink satellites as part of constellations that will eventually include tens of thousands of spacecraft. Amazon, OneWeb, and others are racing to do the same. None of this is inherently bad. These constellations can bring internet access to remote parts of the world and transform global communication. But they are dramatically increasing traffic in an already crowded orbital environment, and the rules governing how we manage this space have not kept pace. Think about every technology that depends on satellites. Your smartphone navigation uses GPS satellites. The financial transactions you make every day are time-stamped and synchronized using satellite signals. Weather forecasting, which affects agriculture, aviation, disaster response, and daily planning, depends on weather satellites. Television broadcasting, emergency services communication, military operations, climate monitoring. All of it runs through assets that orbit Earth in the same regions where debris is accumulating. If those orbital shells become too dangerous to use, we do not just lose conveniences, we lose infrastructure that modern civilization is built on. The economic consequences alone would run into the trillions of dollars, and that estimate is probably conservative. There is also the scientific cost. We would lose the ability to monitor rising sea levels, deforestation, polar ice loss, and a dozen other critical environmental metrics that we track from space. At exactly the moment when we need that data the most, a debris catastrophe could take it away. And here is the psychological trap that makes this problem so hard to solve. Space debris accumulates slowly enough that each individual year does not feel like a crisis. Politicians have other priorities. Corporations focus on quarterly returns. Space agencies are stretched thin. So the problem keeps quietly getting worse while decision-makers keep quietly looking the other way. This is a slow-moving emergency, and slow-moving emergencies are notoriously hard for humans to respond to urgently. But let us be clear about something. The physics of this problem do not care about our attention spans. If we cross the Kessler threshold, there is no emergency intervention that fixes it. You cannot sweep orbital debris away with a single mission. Recovery from a full cascade scenario would take decades or centuries, during which large portions of low Earth orbit would remain unusable. Some models suggest that certain altitude bands, once contaminated, could remain dangerous for human spaceflight and satellite operations for generations. That means no easy replacement of destroyed satellites, no rapid deployment of emergency communication infrastructure, no quick return to the services we depend on. The recovery would be long, painful, and enormously expensive, assuming we could achieve it at all. Now let us talk about what is actually being done, because this is where things get interesting. There are active efforts to address this. Several organizations and companies are working on debris removal technologies. The European Space Agency has been developing concepts for missions that would physically capture and deorbit large debris objects. A Japanese company called Astroscale has demonstrated technology for rendezvous with debris in orbit. Various approaches involve nets, harpoons, robotic arms, and even directed laser systems to gradually slow debris so it falls back into the atmosphere and burns up harmlessly. The international community is also working on guidelines. There is broad agreement that newly launched satellites in low Earth orbit should be designed to deorbit within 25 years of the end of their mission. That sounds reasonable, but compliance with these guidelines is voluntary and not universal. And 25 years is a long time when you consider how many objects are already up there and how quickly new ones are being added. The fundamental challenge is that space is a global commons. No single country owns low Earth orbit, which means no single entity has the authority or incentive to clean it up alone. The costs are immediate and concentrated. The benefits are diffuse and long-term. This is the classic structure of a coordination problem, and humanity has a pretty mixed track record with those. What would actually solving this look like? It would require binding international agreements with real enforcement mechanisms, not just voluntary guidelines. It would require investment in active debris removal missions at a scale we have not yet committed to. It would require standardizing satellite designs so that future spacecraft are more easily retrieved or deorbited. And it would require the major spacefaring nations, including the United States, China, Russia, and the European nations, to treat this as the shared infrastructure problem that it genuinely is, rather than a competitive advantage to exploit. None of that is technically impossible. The technology is developing, The scientific consensus is clear. The economic case for action is overwhelming compared to the cost of inaction. What is missing is political will and genuine international cooperation. Here is where I want to leave you. The next few years are genuinely critical. The rate of satellite launches is increasing exponentially. The debris environment is getting worse each year. The window to get ahead of this problem is real, and it is finite. Future historians will either look back at this period as the time when humanity wisely chose to govern its orbital environment, or they will look back at it as the moment we had the chance and wasted it. The good news is that awareness is growing. The fact that you are watching a video about orbital debris on YouTube means the conversation is expanding beyond specialists and entering public consciousness. That matters. Public pressure shapes policy. Informed citizens ask better questions of their governments and the companies launching satellites in their name. So pay attention to this issue. Talk about it. And the next time you use your GPS, remember that it exists, because for now, the space above us still works. How much longer that remains true is, at least in part, up to us. If you want to keep exploring the wild realities of our universe, click the video on your screen right now. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep bringing you these stories. See you in the next one.